I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. I thought I knew everything about Lisa. She was the kind of girl who always had the perfect comeback, the sharpest tongue, and a way of making you feel like she was just a little bit better than everyone else. We met in college, and from the start she was ambitious, confident, and a little bit bitchy, exactly the kind of woman I thought I needed. We got engaged after 2 years of dating, and I was stupid enough to believe we had a future that was somehow solid and unbreakable. The signs weren't obvious at first. She was always busy, busy enough that I thought it was just her being ambitious. She worked late, traveled for work, and had this tendency to be dismissive when I asked about her day. It was subtle, small things, missing phone calls, late nights where she'd be working, and a strange new secretiveness about her phone. I tried not to jump to conclusions, but I felt a gnawing suspicion already, but I buried it. I told myself she loved me, that I was paranoid. Then came the wedding. It was supposed to be perfect, our dream wedding. Or so I thought. She looked stunning and I was on cloud nine. But even during the reception, I could see her glance at Tom, my best friend, more than once. Tom and I had been friends since college. We'd gone through thick and thin, shared everything, and I trusted him with my life. But that trust was about to be shattered in the most brutal way possible. It was late at night, and Lisa had drunk a little too much. I was outside smoking a cigar, watching the stars, when I saw her slip out of the reception area. She was heading toward the guest house, something I usually wouldn't think twice about, but that night something made me follow her. I stepped quietly behind her, my heart pounding harder with every step. I wasn't planning to spy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, especially after all the weird little clues I'd been ignoring for months. What I saw froze me in place. Lisa was in the guest house, already half undressed, her top gone, and Tom was on her. They were tangled together on the couch, kissing like they'd been doing it for hours. Her hands were all over him, and he was whispering things I didn't hear but could imagine. I felt a punch in my stomach, like someone had hit me with a sledgehammer. My first instinct was to yell, but I just stood there, rooted to the spot, watching everything unravel in front of my eyes. I saw her lips on his neck, her hands exploring things they shouldn't have been exploring. It was so fast, so brutal. All those years of trust gone in a matter of seconds. And Tom, my best friend, right there betraying me like it was nothing. I didn't move for what felt like forever. When I finally turned around and slipped back into the shadows, my mind was racing. I felt like I was going to be sick. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How could she do this? How could Tom? How did I miss all the signs? I wanted to confront them right then, right there, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. I needed to process this, figure out what to do next. But one thing was clear. My life was about to change forever, and I was not prepared for what was coming. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy, sinking feeling in my chest that I knew all too well now. The kind of feeling that settles in your gut and refuses to go away. I kept replaying what I saw the night before, over and over, as if I could somehow find a different ending. But there was no denying it anymore. Lisa, my wife, had been cheating on me with Tom, right before our wedding. The thought made me want to vomit, but I kept it down, mostly because I was afraid of what I might do if I didn't. I didn't sleep well that night. My mind was a storm of confusion, anger, and heartbreak. I kept thinking about all the times she'd been dismissive, the way she'd lied about where she was when she was really with him. I remembered the late-night calls she'd refused to show me on her phone, the little hints of secretiveness that I brushed off because I didn't want to believe the worst. Now I knew. I really knew, and it cut me so deep it hurt physically. I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, not after what I saw. I waited until she came home that afternoon, trying to act normal, but inside I was boiling with rage. When she finally walked through the door, I just stared at her. She was wearing that bitchy smirk, that I'm better than you attitude she always had when she was annoyed, and I knew this was the moment. "Lisa," I said, my voice cold and trembling all at once. "I saw you last night, in the guest house, with Tom." Her face froze, and she looked at me like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, come on," she said, crossing her arms. You're overreacting, you saw nothing, maybe you're just jealous, that's why you're making a big deal out of this." I couldn't believe the audacity of her, the way she kept lying, the way she tried to pretend it was nothing. I clenched my fists, feeling the rage bubbling up. "Don't lie to me, Lisa, I saw everything. You and Tom in the guest house, kissing, touching. How long has this been going on? Weeks? Months?" She scoffed again, her eyes narrowing. "First of all, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you're just stressed about the wedding, or maybe you're paranoid because I've been busy with work. Whatever it is, it's not what you think." That's when I lost it. I told her I'd seen enough, that I wasn't going to be played the fool anymore. But she just kept spinning her lies, throwing out insults and acting like I was the one with the problem. She said, "You're just jealous because Tom and I are better for each other than you and I ever were. You're so insecure, you're making this about sex, but it's about what I want. You're not enough for me anyway." Her words hit me like a punch in the stomach. I felt my heart break all over again. How could she be so dismissive, so bitchy about the whole thing? She was lying through her teeth, and I knew that, but hearing her say those things made me feel even more betrayed. I wanted to break something, yell, do anything but stand there and listen. But I knew I had to keep my composure. Not because I was strong, but because I knew that if I lost control, I'd do something I'd regret. That day, I walked out of that house feeling like I'd lost my mind. I didn't even bother to pack my things, I just left. I told her I needed space, that I'd be back later, but I knew I wouldn't. Not after what I'd seen, not after what she'd said. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever trust anyone again. I felt like a fool for ever believing in her, for ever trusting Tom, my supposed best friend. And yet, amidst all the rage and heartbreak, I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I was hurt and angry, but I realized I had to decide what I wanted next. Was I going to try to fix this? Was there any way back from this? Or was I better off walking away for good? That's when I started planning my next move, because I knew this wasn't going to end with me just walking away. Not without some kind of reckoning. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and anger. I couldn't focus on anything. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Tom again. That image haunted me like a ghost, and I hated myself for feeling so helpless. I kept asking myself how I let it get this far, how I didn't see the warning signs. I wondered if I was just blind, or if I'd been so caught up in the idea of our future that I ignored all the red flags. I tried to reach out to Tom, but he wouldn't respond. I sent him a few messages, mostly angry and accusing, but he kept silent. I knew I needed to confront him face to face, or at least get some answers. The thing is, I didn't want some messy fight, but I also knew I wouldn't get any closure otherwise. I had to see him, had to hear what he had to say, even if I knew it wouldn't make things better. It was about finally understanding how deep the betrayal went. I set up a meeting with Tom. I told him I wanted to talk, that I needed to hear from him exactly what was going on. I didn't hold back. When we finally met, I went straight for the point. "Explain yourself," I said coldly. "How long have you been sleeping with my wife? Do you even care how much you've hurt me?" Tom looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat, avoiding eye contact. He muttered some lame excuse about how things just happened, that Lisa was different and that they had a connection. He brushed it off like it was nothing, like I was just some guy who'd been used as a placeholder for her. But I didn't buy any of it. I felt my blood boil, and I told him exactly what I thought of him, how he'd been my friend and he'd betrayed me, how I trusted him more than anyone in the world, and he'd used that trust to hurt me in the worst way. Standing there, hearing him try to justify himself, I felt a strange mix of rage and sadness. I wanted to punch him, punch something, but I held back. Instead, I told him I never wanted to see him again, that he was dead to me now. I also told him that if he ever tried to contact Lisa again, he'd regret it. I made it clear I wasn't going to let this slide. That was my line in the sand. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I was livid, broken inside, and confused about what to do next. The betrayal wasn't just about the sex. It was about the fact that both of the people I trusted most had shattered everything I believed in. I felt like I'd been a fool for so long, but I also felt the sting of realization. I deserved better than this. I deserved honesty, respect, and loyalty, not lies, cheating, and betrayal. That night I sat alone in my apartment, drinking whiskey I didn't even like, trying to process what had happened. I kept thinking about how Lisa had painted herself as the victim in all of this, how she'd lied and lied until she was blue in the face. She told me she was bored, that she needed something more, that she was sorry but couldn't help herself. Sorry doesn't cut it when your whole life is a lie. I started to see her true colors, and they weren't pretty. They were mean, selfish, and manipulative. The worst part was the feeling of loss. I lost my wife, my best friend, and the future I'd imagined. Everything had crumbled in a matter of days. I didn't want to think about trying to fix this anymore. No, I knew deep down that some wounds don't heal, and some betrayals are beyond repair. But I also knew I had to take control of this mess somehow. I wasn't going to stay in this pain forever. I owed it to myself to figure out what I was going to do, whether that meant fighting for a way back or finally walking away. The choice was mine now, and I knew that whatever I decided, my life would never be the same. The nights after I confronted Tom were the worst. Sleep didn't come easily, and when it did, the dreams were worse. I kept seeing Lisa and Tom together, their faces twisted in pleasure, and that image haunted me even when I was awake. It made me question everything I believed in, my judgment, my trust, my own sanity. I kept going over every moment, every sign I missed, wondering how I didn't see this coming. It was like I'd been blindfolded, and now that the truth was out, I couldn't unsee it. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to fight, to make her admit she was lying, to get some kind of closure that would allow me to move on. But deep down, I felt something different, an instinct that told me I couldn't fix this. She was too far gone in her lies, and Tom was just a symptom of a bigger problem. I had to get out of this toxic cycle, even if it hurt like hell. So I made a plan. I decided I'd give her a final chance to come clean, but I wasn't going to wait around forever. I wanted her to face the truth, to tell me why she'd done this, why she'd hurt me so badly. I also knew I had to gather more evidence, more proof, to make sure I wasn't just losing my mind. I started going through her phone, her emails, anything I could find. I needed to see if she'd slipped up again, to catch her in another lie, or to find some shred of honesty. What I found was worse than I expected. There were texts, messages, hidden conversations, flirty exchanges, even explicit stuff, all between her and Tom. She'd been sneaking around for months. She'd lied to my face about everything. It was like I'd been living with a stranger all this time. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. I felt my stomach turn, and I knew I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I had to leave. I couldn't be around her, not after what I'd uncovered. The decision to leave was one of the hardest I ever made. I packed my bags late at night and left while she was out, probably trying to cover her tracks. I didn't want her to see me cry, or to beg, or to try to stop me. I just wanted out. As I drove away, I felt like I was shedding a part of myself, the part that believed in love, in loyalty, in honesty. Now all I had was anger and disappointment, mixed with a strange sort of relief that I was finally free from the lies. In the days that followed, I isolated myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone, just wanted to be alone with my thoughts. I went to a hotel, trying to make sense of what had happened. I kept asking myself if I should try to fight for her, if there was any way to fix this, or if I was better off walking away forever. Honestly, I felt like I was at a crossroads, and the right way forward wasn't clear. Part of me still loved her, but another part realized I deserved someone who wouldn't cheat, who wouldn't lie, who wouldn't be so cruel. Every day was a new battle with my feelings, rage at her, sadness for what we lost, and a strange hope that someday I'd find a way to forgive myself for trusting her. I kept telling myself I wasn't the problem, that she was the one who betrayed me, who lied and cheated and broke every promise we ever made. But inside, I wondered if I'd missed the signs, if I should have seen it coming. I wondered if I was just a fool for ever believing we had something real. The truth is, I don't have all the answers yet. I'm still trying to piece myself back together. But one thing I do know is that I won't let this define me. I'm hurt, yes. Angry, yes. But I also know I have to move on, even if it hurts like hell. That's the only way I'll start to heal, by facing the pain, accepting the betrayal, and finally letting go of the past. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I do know I won't stay stuck in this nightmare forever. The weeks that followed were a strange mix of numbness and clarity. I stayed away from her, from Tom, from everyone who reminded me of the betrayal. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the pain with busy routines, but it didn't work. Every morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, and every night I lay awake replaying everything, wondering how I'd let it all fall apart so quickly. One thing I realized during this time was that anger was starting to fade into something else. It wasn't just rage anymore. It was a deep, aching sadness. I'd been so blinded by love and trust that I forgot how fragile those things could be. Now I saw clearly. They'd been broken long before I found out. She'd been lying to me, cheating on me, betraying everything we'd built. And Tom, my best friend, had been complicit. I felt foolish for ever trusting them, but I also felt liberated. I was finally seeing the truth, no matter how painful. I started thinking about what I really wanted. Did I want to fight for her, try to save what was left? Or was it better to just walk away and start over? I knew deep down that I couldn't stay with someone who'd hurt me so badly. Not anymore. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when every part of me was telling me to run. So I made a decision. I was going to end it for good. I was going to do what I should have done from the start, cut ties, move on, and rebuild my life. But before I could do anything, I needed closure. I reached out to Lisa one last time. I told her I wanted to meet, to talk face to face so I could finally hear her side. Not to argue, not to yell, just to understand. She agreed, of course, because she knew she'd been caught, and she knew I wasn't fool enough to let her lie her way out this time. I told her I'd be at the usual cafe that evening, and she came. When she arrived, her face was still that bitchy, dismissive look she always wore. She sat down across from me, trying to act like everything was normal, like she hadn't just destroyed my life. I didn't waste time. I told her I knew about everything, the texts, the affair, the lies. I told her I had proof and that I was done forgiving her. I wanted her to finally admit what she'd done, to look me in the eye and say she was sorry. But she just shrugged, smirked, and said, "You're overreacting. It's not what it looks like. You're just jealous and insecure. I didn't cheat, I swear. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." That was the moment I realized she was never going to own up. She was a master at lying, at twisting things around to make herself look innocent. She didn't care about me. She only cared about protecting her reputation, her lies, her ego. I felt the last strings of hope snap inside me. I remember looking at her, seeing how bitchy and manipulative she was, and feeling a strange sense of relief. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I finally saw her for what she truly was, someone I never should have trusted. That night I left her there, sitting smug and unrepentant. It was the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. I realized I deserved better than someone who lied so easily, who betrayed me so completely. I didn't want revenge, not really. I just wanted to be free from her lies, to start healing from the wreckage. And I knew I'd have to do that alone, piece by piece. Now I'm trying to rebuild my life, even if it's just one step at a time. It's hard, really hard. The heartbreak still lingers, and I catch myself thinking about what could have been, what I lost. But a part of me feels lighter, knowing I finally faced the truth. I know I'll never forget, but I also know I won't let this define me forever. Sometimes, you have to go through the worst to find your way back to something better. And that's what I'm holding on to now. Hope that someday I'll find someone who's honest and loyal, someone who isn't bitchy and manipulative, someone worth trusting again. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole mess changed me, probably forever. I used to think trust was something you just gave freely, something you could count on to keep your world steady. But after Lisa and Tom, I see it differently. Trust isn't just handed out. It's earned, and sometimes it's shattered in an instant. That betrayal left a scar that's deep, but it also taught me something crucial. I have to know myself better, and I have to be more careful about who I let into my life. I've started going to therapy, not because I think I'm broken, but because I want to understand what happened. I want to make sense of the pain, to process it, and to learn how to trust again, not blindly but more wisely. I've also cut out everyone who enabled the lies, cut off Lisa's manipulative excuses and Tom's silence. It's been freeing in a way. I don't need those toxic people in my life anymore. What I do need is to rebuild my sense of self, piece by piece. The hardest part wasn't the cheating itself, but the betrayal of the person I thought I knew best. Lisa was supposed to be my partner, my confidant, the one I could always count on. Instead, she was a stranger who wore a mask of charm and bitchiness to hide her selfishness. That realization hit hard, but it also set me free. I no longer blame myself for trusting her. People are who they are, and sometimes you just get blindsided. The important thing is that I'm awake now, more aware and more cautious. I've started dating again slowly. It's terrifying to open my heart after being hurt so badly, but I know I can't let that fear rule me. I want someone who's honest, who treats me with respect, who won't lie or cheat or manipulate their way into my life. I don't need another Lisa or Tom. I need someone real, someone who values loyalty and truth as much as I do. This whole experience has made me realize how fragile happiness really is. People can be so good at hiding their true selves, and sometimes you only find out the truth when it's too late. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the betrayal, I faced the pain, and I came out the other side still standing. That's what counts. I may have lost a lot, but I gained clarity. I gained respect for myself. So, here's my advice to anyone out there who might be going through something similar. Trust is fragile. Cherish the people who show you honesty and loyalty, but never forget that you have to protect yourself too. Pay attention to the signs, listen to your gut, and don't be afraid to walk away from someone who betrays you. It's painful, yes, but staying in a lie is worse. You deserve truth, respect, and someone who values you, not just when it's convenient, but always. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll be okay. I've learned that sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach you how to be better, to love yourself first and foremost. And that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.